Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this panel of discussion that focuses on the critical issue that affects us all: climate change and the transition from carbon-based energy sources to green energy solutions. My name is Ayan Makul Lejag, and I will be moderating this discussion. Now, to me, I would say this discussion is mostly relevant to a country like South Sudan because it's a nation that depends on oil production for economic stability. Therefore, we face unique challenges trying to balance the need for economic stability and also the need to address climate change. At the same time, the impacts of global warming, such as floods, droughts, and health crises, are already disrupting livelihoods and food security across the country. To explore this topic, we are privileged to have a panel of 6 experts from diverse fields. Each will be offering unique insights in this pressing matter. Ladies and gentlemen, representing the proponents of the motion, we have the first speaker as Waida Nomi Philp. She's a journalist who will shed more light on how the media reports on climate change. We also have Mr. Patch Aliar Patch, who happens to be an environmentalist who will be bringing in scientific data and advocacy expertise to this discussion. Not forgetting Dr. Emanuela Tukwaje Samuel, who will discuss the health implications of climate change. Representing the opponents of the motion, we have the first speaker as Molana Dorkol, who will present the legal and the policy challenges of such a transition. We also have Deborah Yar Juma, CEO of the largest tire manufacturing company, who will be offering insights from the business and the industrial perspective. And the last speaker is none other than Honorable Lim Manye Lim, a senior government official who will discuss the role of government policies in addressing climate change. Ladies and gentlemen, we look forward to a constructive exchange of ideas, and without wasting any further time, let's dive right into the discussion, and I'll be starting by welcoming Waida Nomi Philp on board. Ms. Waida Nomi Philp, it's good to have you.
Thank you so much, Ann Makul. Thank you for having me in the studio.
It's really good to have you. My first question goes as, how can the media in South Sudan raise awareness about environmental impact of fossil fuels?
Thank you so much, Ann Makul. That is an interesting question. Media outlets in South Sudan can actually engage to raise awareness by creating educational campaigns whereby media outlets carry interview and make documentaries that associate with the use and consumption of fossil fuel and climatical change. Another one also, media outlets in South Sudan can raise awareness by also engaging the local communities and also promoting storytelling, whereby they come and publish stories or write stories to do with fossil fuel, where the local communities will understand the consumption and the disadvantage of fossil fuel also in South Sudan. And another thing also, the misuse and the destruction, like soil erosion, things to do with deforestation, things to do with afforestation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Waida Nomi Philp, for such amazing answers. At this point, let's also hear from Mr. Patch Aliar Patch. Mr. Patch, it's good to have you around. And my question goes as, what evidence exists to show the impact of oil exploitation on South Sudan environment?
Yeah, thank you, Ayan Makur, for having me in the studio. Of course, I will actually update you about the environmental impacts that are happening in our country, especially in South Sudan. Yeah, to begin with, we have a lot of evidences that begin with the deforestation, whereby the trees are cut down in order to set up the refinery center. That is number one. Number two is also soil erosion. Thirdly, we have what is called water contamination. Water contamination is one of the evidences that show there are a lot of negative impact. For example, in 2017, most of the animals were intoxicated due to poor management of waste. Yeah, so these are the evidences that shows the environmental impact on the ground, especially in South Sudan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Patch Aliar. We have just heard from our second speaker, and now we'll be moving to Dr. Emanuela Tukwaje. And my question goes as, what health challenges are linked to fossil fuels, maybe in terms of waterborne diseases? Can you briefly tell us about?
Okay, thank you so much for having me here today for this amazing discussion about the fossil fuels. Yeah, in South Sudan, fossil fuel emissions that associate environmental pollutions that contributing several health challenges. One of them is respiratory disease, that fossil fuel combustions relating harmful pollutants such as particulate matters, carbon monoxide, and sulfur dioxide that leading to the acquired respiratory infections, particularly representing in children under the 5 due indox air pollutions from burning corrosants or ball marks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Emanuela Tukwaje. We have just heard from the proponents of the motion. Let's now move to the opponents of the motion, and I'll be going straight to Molana Dorkol. Molana Dorkol, it's good to have you on board. And my question goes as, how can South Sudan balance its dependence on oil and also the urgent need to address climate change?
Thank you, Moderator Yan Makur, for giving me this opportunity to address on this issue as a Molana or lawyer to these programs. So, direct to my point, South Sudan can balance its dependencies on oil revenue by diversifying its economic to include a sustainable sector such as agriculture, renewable energy, and ecotourism. Investment also in renewable energy infrastructure can create a job and reduce relying on oil over time. Additionally, in South Sudan, when we implement the policies that promote energy efficiencies, the conservation and carbon offset initiative can help address climate change. While address climate change, gradually reducing dependencies on oil, engaging local community in sustainable practice can also foster economic resilience based on the dependencies on the oil revenue in South Sudan. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Molana Dorkol. Let's also hear from Iyar Juma. Ms. Iyar Juma, it's good to have you.
Thank you so much, Yan Makur, for hosting me today. I'm Deborah Iyar Juma, the CEO of Rockwell Company. Rockwell Company was formed in 2011, and it's currently operating in 3 different states within South Sudan. That is, 1 branch is in Wau, Northern Barkazal, 1 is in Rumbek, and then 1 is in Juba, Central Equatoria. So in Rockwell manufacturing company, tire manufacturing company, we are having around 135 employees who are working in different branches within South Sudan.
Oh, thank you so much, Iyar Juma, for giving us a brief overview about your company. Given that fact that you are a CEO of a tire manufacturing company, I wanted you to briefly tell us what challenges do industries in South Sudan face when considering green energy solutions?
Well, there are a number of challenges business world is facing in South Sudan. One of them is infrastructure, which makes green energy adaptation difficult and expensive. The second one is a high initial cost of renewable technologies, which are prohibited in the business world. Those are the 2 challenges that we are facing mostly in the business world.
Thank you so much, Iyar Juma. Let's now hear from Honorable Lim Manyel, a senior government official. And my question goes as, how does South Sudan government plan to balance oil production with with environmental sustainability?
First of all, thank you, Mr. Jens Marcus, and on behalf of my honorable members and my own behalf, we appreciate you for hosting us today. To the question, there are only two key factors or the step strategy that the governments of South Sudan have been put into use. The ones of balance oil, it is the environmental audits. This audit is the first factors that was being put into use by the government of South Sudan, then to find out or to assess the condition areas for making the oils. Number two is international collaboration. When we talk of international collaboration, this is amalgamation, combinations. This is whereby different people, the investors. So this ones has been put into work by the government as a way of to get the more materials or getting the knowledge of the use of the oil, so that we can get the more the expert of in that field. So these are the two key that the government of South Sudan has been put into use. Without wasting time, the honorables, my honorable, and those who are present with me in this interview, are the two keys that the government has been put into use as the way of balancing the oil of South Sudan. Thank you for hosting us once more, Mr. Ian Makur. In this time, I would like to stop.
Thank you so much for joining this vital discussion. We have just heard from Honorable Lim. Let's also hear from the proponent side, and we are going back to Wider Nomi Phil. And Wider Nomi Phil, my question goes as, what challenges do journalists in South Sudan face when it comes to reporting on climate change and energy solutions?
Thank you so much, Ian Makur. Journalists in South Sudan face a lot of challenges when it comes to reporting on climatical change and fossil fuel, but I'm going only to highlight 2 points. One of them is lack of training and expertise. South Sudan really lacks journalists who are expert in climatical areas. Like, for example, recently, the documentary which was released by Ajak Maura, that is the documentary of the first documentary of its own that is highlighting things to do with environmental changes and climatical changes like flooding and other things. So also there was one documentary that was done also by one of our colleagues called Thomas also. He did that documentary recently in Lake State, and he was also arrested. So as you can see, South Sudan really lack expertise and training also. You know, climatical change and fossil fuel and things to do with green energy, it is a complex topic for journalists to associate with it. Hence, it needs much training and expertise. So journalists in South Sudan lack enough information to report on climatical change and green energy. Thank you, Ian Makur.
Given that fact that you have been in the media for some years, what do you think should be done?
Thank you so much for this question. I really wanted it badly. What needs to be done is to train journalists on things to do with climatical change, things to do with safety of a journalist, and things to do also with surveillance and risk management. Once journalists are equipped, they will have enough knowledge to report on such sensitive topics. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wider Nomi Phil, for those amazing answers. I think we'll be moving back to Patch Aliar Patch. And Mr. Patch, I wanted you to briefly tell us, how can green energy technologies like solar power help communities in South Sudan that lack access to reliable electricity?
Yeah, thank you once more for that wonderful question. Yeah, to answer you, green energy is the one reliable and affordable at the same time. Of course, in the rural areas, it can easily be accessed. When we come into this, it is very easy for the people living in remote areas to get light through the use of green power. That is number one. Number two, it can also help them in terms of agriculture, such as water pumping. So these are the things that I can put across.
Dr. Emanuela, I wanted you to briefly tell us how climate change, including droughts and floods, how has it affected the public health in South Sudan?
Yeah, climate change, including the increasing occurrence of drought and floodings, that has significantly affecting the health of public in South Sudan. Let me talk on food securities. drought that have led to crops failures that reducing the food productions, have causing the widespread hungers. Another point also, flood have destroyed agriculture's land, and that disturbing food supply chains. It's also spread the waterborne disease that flooding create the external waters, which become breeding ground for mosquitoes, increasing also the prevalence of malaria.
Given that fact that you're a medical doctor, you have mentioned a number of challenges, and I wanted to know what is the Ministry of Health doing about all these challenges that you talked about?
Yeah, when we had the case of the disease that affecting within the country, so we can offer the vaccine areas so that people should come and take the vaccine. Like especially nowadays, people affecting with the cholera. In every area now, yeah, people are coming to take the vaccine of the cholera, so that to reduce the respiratory disease, so that not to express within the country.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Emanuela. Let's also hear from the opponent side, and this brings us back to Maulana Dor. Maulana Dor, I wanted you to briefly tell us if there are international agreements or partnerships that South Sudan can leverage to support the transition to green energy.
Thank you, Ayan Makur. In South Sudan, South Sudan can leverage international agreement, such as the Paris Agreement on the climate change, to seek a technical and financial support for transiting the green energy, and also partnership in organization like the United Nations Development Program, that is UNDP. The World Bank could facilitate access to green technology and funding additionally. Engaging in a regional collaboration with the neighboring countries that have a more advanced renewable energy sector, could also provide valuable knowledge and resources about the green energy concerning the international agreement. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maulana Dor. He has just told us about international agreements and partnership with other countries. And now let's hear from Yar Juma. Now, my question goes as, how would a shift from renewable energy affect industrial operations, especially in a developing country like South Sudan?
Well, it will, the shifting will affect in terms of short-term eruptions may occur to like during the adaptation of the new system, which is the renewable energies. And then another one is renewable sources may lack the consistent power needed for the industries in the business world.
All right. You have talked about the effects of transitioning. So I wanted to know, like, do you think South Sudan is ready to transition?
No, South Sudan is not ready to transition as per now.
All right. Thank you so much. Let's hear from Honorable Lim Manyel. Honorable, I wanted you to briefly tell us what is the government doing to promote renewable energy projects like solar and hydropower currently in South Sudan.
Thank you once more, Ms. Ayen Makur. On behalf of my seniors government officials and my behalf, there's only two steps on the strategy that the government of South Sudan has been put into works. One is that there's a strategic planning and policy framework. This one is the idea that has been brought up by the government to overcome the crisis. Because now when you look at the country, especially South Sudan, there are a lot of crises that are facing South Sudan. And these strategies were the strategy that was being strategized by the government. Like example, there is a policy that was being played by the government of Jonglei, and this was being introduced 3 weeks ago. That there is a policy. There is a new strategic plan, which is FIT. That FIT, they stand for Personal Income Tax. So this one was being introduced for the development of the country. So, and I think this is the start. And this way is also a way of the promoting, like, promoting of the things like these green energy, like solars and windmills and so on. So this is a way of generating sources for to get those things. Second, this is the government. Our government is focusing on the hydropower development. When we talk of hydropower, this is HEP, HEP, that is hydroelectricity power, like a Fuller Dam. So this one is a vision. So these strategies has been put by the government as the vision to solve the crisis of the electricity. Because now the crisis that the country-wise South Sudan has been facing, like there's a quote from the Professor Lumumba that said, when I look at Africa, so it said many questions come into his mind, but as the government, when we look at this, our country, there are a lot of things that we put into work, that as the government, we need to work to solve it. So this one, Fuller Dam, this Fuller Dam has been put first, has been put as a priority by the government to solve the issues of the electricity. Because now South Sudan, there are some of the areas, the remote areas, like the rural areas, so those areas, they need power. But we cannot generate power because now we don't have that capacity of having our own power. So this is the vision that was being raised by the government. So without wasting time on my behalf of seniors, government official, so I thank you once more for hosting. And these are the two strategies these are the two strategies that have been brought up by the government to promote the green energy in the county. So thank you, Ms. Ayen, for hosting us.
All right, thank you so much for briefly telling us about the projects that the government has in mind. And I think up to this point, we have to go back to Wider Nomifil. Welcome on board once again, Wider Nomifil. I wanted you to briefly tell us about examples of local campaigns or stories that have successfully mobilized South Sudanese communities towards environmental conservation.
Okay, thank you so much, Ian Makur. So far, South Sudan have two initiative campaign. One of them is the tree planting campaign that was formed in 2019, actually. This initiative comprise of local communities, organization, and the youth also. So this initiative was formed to combat issues to do with deforestation, cutting down of trees, hence to implement afforestation, where they had the slogan of saying that once you cut one tree, you have to plant 2 trees. This is the first initiative. And then the second initiative is Save the Nile. Save the Nile campaign was actually formed to make sure to deal with issues to do with water sources and saving of the Nile. Things to do with plastic bottles, things to do with pollution, things to do with misuse of water sources, and so on. So these are the two initiatives that are currently working hard in South Sudan to make sure that the climatical change is actually implemented. And also the media is a witness of this, because these initiatives have actually called media houses many times to publish stories to do with water sources, stories to do with climatical change, stories to do with fossil fuel. So from here, I beg to stop here and thank you.
Thank you so much for telling us about such campaigns. Let's also hear from Mr. Pachalier. And my question goes as, are there sustainable energy initiatives already in South Sudan that just need to be scaled up?
Yeah, thank you, Juan Mons. Of course, we have what is called scalable initiatives that is existing at the moment. In South Sudan, there are some small scalable initiatives that support installation of solar system, and also things to do with wind energy in order to provide power. So when we work on this, then it will eradicate the use of fossil fuels that contaminate the air. Yeah, in South Sudan also, when these things are prioritized, it will lead to development, and also it will avoid these issues of having diseases that are not meant to be haved or to be actually get in the area. For example, now, in our areas, such as rural areas, there is a project that concern with the installation of solar system. In the hospital, there is a light that is being supported by solar system. And also in other areas where people gathered, there is a project of solar installation. For example, here in Juba, we have this project. If you are moving along the road, you could find the lights, and that light is being supported by solar installation. So currently we have that project in our country. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Pachalier. Let's also hear from Dr. Emanuela. Dr. Emanuela, my question goes as, what are the potential health benefits of using solar and other green energy sources in rural community?
The potential health benefits that reduce the waterborne disease, that solar power was treatment systems can improve the access to clean drinking waters, also reduce the prevalence of waterborne disease such as cholera and diarrhea and typhoid. Another point also to improve the indoors air qualities that reduce smoke from bulb smokes. Most households in South Sudan rely on wood and charcoals for cooking, that leading to the indoors air pollutions, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and phlegm infections. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Emanuela. Let's now hear from the opponent side, and we'll be going back to Maulana Dor. Maulana Dor, my question goes as, how can laws in South Sudan address issues to do with job losses in the oil sector? If South Sudan is to shift today, how would the laws address that?
Okay, thank you very much, Ayan Makur, for hosting me in this panelist discussion. Addressing a job loss concern, as a lawyer, the law can mitigate the job losses in the oil sector during the transition to the green energy by creating retaining to those who lost their jobs in the company or in the oil sector. Program for affected workers can be created to retain their jobs back, ensuring they have the skill to enter emerging sectors, like insensitive for the companies that invest in a green technology and job creation. In a renewable energy can help maintain employment level, and additionally establishing a social safety net for those displaced, and can provide a temporary support at the economic adjust to new industry. Yeah, I think that is.
All right, thank you so much, Maulana Dor. Let's also hear from Yar Juma. Yeah, Juma, we are talking about transitioning, and if South Sudan is to decide to transition today, what kind of support do industries really need to shift?
The kind of support industries would need is tax break and subsidies could ease the financial burden of adopting greener energy. Another thing is low interest loans or grant would make renewable energy projects more affordable. These are the two steps needed.
In case this support is not given, does it mean South Sudan can
Not really. South Sudan can transition, but not immediately. We have to work with what we have at hand.
All right, thank you so much, Yar Juma. At this point, let's hear from Honorable Lim Maniel. And Well, my question goes as, what challenges is the government facing when implementing green energy? We understand that each and everyone goes through challenges, so I want you to briefly tell us about those challenges.
Thank you, Mr. Ian Makud, for hosting me once more. You know, when you look at the challenges, the key challenges, there are numbers of challenges that are facing the country. But out of those numbers, there are only two key challenges which has been facing the South Sudan. One key challenge is the lack of infrastructures. When you look of the word lack of infrastructures, this one is a huge word, and it's hard that there are some part that need to be expressed or need to be appropriate. So when we talk of the infrastructure, these are the construction materials, things that have been used, that can be used for constructing. Like now in South Sudan, we don't have the roads. Even the road from Juba to here, it's not there. Even the one for those remote areas, that still is not yet which has been put into work. So this lack of infrastructures is one of the major keys that is facing the country, South Sudan. Second, and as I've mentioned before, that there are only two key challenges which are facing the South Sudan. Number two, this is a high capital investment. When we talk about high capital investment, there was a quote that was being said by one of the ministers of Ghana. He said that there is a Harry Maguire crisis, because Maguire is a football player, but he is known because he used to put the own goals. So this higher capital investment, like the materials, so these are our own goal of South Sudan, because now the resources that the government or the country is having is only the oils, and that oil then cannot sustain the whole country, because we are having a lot of things that we need to do, like the salaries. There were been a complaint on the TVs, like there's no salaries and whatever. You know, when we go on social media, there's a lot of question about the blaming that government of South Sudan has failed. So there's no failings. Our government has not yet failed, because now we are still working on these things to do, because we are having a vision, and those vision will be established soon as possible. On this side, Mr. Ian Makud, I would like, on my behalf of senior government officials and on my behalf, and to the citizens of South Sudan now, let me give you this message. So just keep up. Things will change, and things will come into as we are hoping that South Sudan is a new a country, and we are still working one by one, step by step. So thank you one more for listening to me, Mr. Ian.
Thank you so much, Honorable Lim, for your message of hope and also encouraging South Sudanese. I think we will be going to Wider Nomi Philip, and this happens to be your last question. And the question goes as, given the fact that South Sudan's reliance on oil exports, how can the media report on the need for alternative energy without undermining the economy? We understand that we are currently going through crisis. So what can the media do about it?
Thank you so much, Ian Makur. The media outlet in South Sudan can actually shed more light on environmental changes and consequence, and also without undermining the current economic. South Sudan media should shed more or highlight more stories to appreciate the production of oil and the use of green energy without undermining the current economic in South Sudan. Thank you.
Much Wider Nomi Phil for being part of this discussion. Now let's hear from Mr. Patch. And my question is, what role can traditional knowledge and practices play in South Sudan's transition to green energy?
Yeah. With the traditional integrations, it will help, whereby the two methods are integrated to become one. For example, we have two ways, modern technology and then the traditional methods. So for these to work together, they have to be harmonized, so that whenever you are doing something, just know the side effect of that particular thing. if you are doing it traditionally, you would be able to identify what will be the negative impact of that things. And also, if you are doing in a modern way, then you would be able to know it. But whenever they are joined together, then they work smoothly. So there is a need for integrations of the traditional technology and also the modern technology for us to achieve the issue of green light energies.
Now, in the context of South Sudan, we know that civilization is taking over. Are these traditional practices still?
Of course, they're still existing in other various areas. And now the government is working on that in order for the people to be sensitized on how they should actually inherit the modernizations.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pachaler. Let's hear from Dr. Emanuela. Dr. Emanuela, given the fact that you're a health worker, I wanted you to briefly tell us how can healthcare professions in South Sudan advocate for green energy to reduce health risk?
Healthcare professionals play a critical role in South Sudan that advocated for clean energy to reduce the risk that associated with traditional energy sources. Here are the actionable strategies they can employ. One of them is to raise awareness about the health risk, to educate the communities, highlight the health risk to using the bulk marks and corrosants that benefit respiratory disease to ban and police. A public campaign partner with local organizations and medias to run campaigning to the benefit of clean energies for health. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Emanuela. We have just had a lot of points from the Proponet side, and now we are shifting to the Opponent side, and I'll be asking my next question to Maulana Dor. So, talking about transition, Maulana Dor Call, I wanted you to share your own opinions on should South Sudan take a gradual transition to renewable energy than just immediate shift? What would you say?
Yeah, thank you, Ian Mokur, for hosting me for the last question. Gradual transition to the renewable energy is likely more realistic for South Sudan than an immediate shift given its current economic relation on the oil effort and underdeveloped infrastructure for renewable. A passive approach allows for careful planning, the development of necessary technology, and the creation of a skilled workforce. Also, it can help the manage economic impact and provide the time to develop the alternative revenue stream and making the transition smoother and more sustainable.
Thank you so much. We have just heard from the last speaker from the Proponet side, and now we'll be moving to the Opponent side. And we'll be going back to Maulana Dor Call. So, Maulana Dor Call, my last question goes as, is the gradual transition to renewable energy in South Sudan more realistic than immediate shift?
Yes, thank you, Ian Mokur, for hosting me this question. The last question. So the reliable oil sector in the countries has done constitution to govern the oil company and the other national and international organization in the countries. So
let's hear from Yar Juma. Yar Juma, this brings us to our last question, and I wanted you to share your opinions on how do you see South Sudan's industrial growth aligning with the global environmental goals? We understand that there are global environmental goals. How can you balance these 2 points?
Well, we can balance this through sustainable growth should be prioritized to meet global climate commitment. And then secondly, South Sudan can attract investment and create jobs in the greener economy by focusing on renewable energies. And I would love to stop here, but before stopping here, I would tell my proponent side, let's hold hands together to oppose the journey of transition from going to green energies and focus more on the fossil fuels in order to grow together in greener, in richer South Sudan and beautiful South Sudan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yar Juma. I think to the proponents, Yar Juma just asked you to join them in going against the transition. And up to this point, we are going to the last speaker, and that is Honorable Lim. Right, so my last question goes as, how can South Sudan leverage international and partnership to invest in renewable energy infrastructure?
Thank you once more, Ms. Ayen. You know, there's some key word that I would like to paraphrase first before I go to the question. This is the question that I was been waiting, I personally and the senior government. The first definition that I want to express, that is the word, the leverage. This leverage, this is a mechanical advantage gained by being in a position to use a lever. So you know, this question, it is the question that we government. So we want to indicate the citizen about this one. So when we look at our table here, we have different professionals, different categories. We have journalists. There's a community specialists like my college, Patch, and doctors. We have Molanas and the CEO. This question, I would like to talk about. You know, when I want to talk about this question, the thing that the word that has been used on social media, thing that was used on radio, television, this is what I want to address as the senior government on behalf of our government. You know that the word government, this is the government for the people. This is by the people, for the people. So a government cannot work by alone. So it needs you as a journalist, it needs you as the doctor, it also needs you as the Molana, the CEO to work together. So in this point, I would like to go to the question. When we talk about the leverage or to make a amalgamation or to make a coalition with foreigners to come and invest in our green energy. You know, the word that has been used, that I mentioned, that there are some of the people, like the CEO, those who are making business, those who used to travel to Dubai, others used to go to. So the word that they said government of South Sudan has failed people, and that one is not correct. So we have not failed, but we are working. You also, if you mention the government, make sure you have also failed as a journalist, you have also failed as a doctor, also have also failed as a CEO. So we need to come together. So we need to create some word that can attract the foreigners. So to come to the country, to come and invest on the what we have. So we need to use the very good approach. This is business approach. So as the government official, these are I would like to talk on two keys. There's two keys. There is what is called the patriotic love. When you talk of patriotic love, this is the love for your country. You need to have the love for your country, even though you know there are some of the challenges that South Sudan is facing. So you need to put those challenges apart, but you need to focus on the positive one, not the infect. So on this side, I would like to stop there. And this message, so I want to convey to the citizen of South Sudan that put that down. You know, as a country, we have different categories. So you cannot say, so we cannot depend on the government alone. So you need to do some jobs. You need to create your own job, so that job can generate something, and those things can be the way of generating. So on this point, Mr. Ayen Makur and others representatives from different professionals, so we need to take this outside. So we need to go and preach to the citizen of South Sudan that the government, you are the government. There's no government apart from you. So put in your mind that the government, it start with you. So in these junctures, I would like to stop on the behalf of my seniors, governments, and on my board. So thank you for having us today. And this is the one of the most interview that the government of South Sudan has taken as a way forward for the strategy. Thank you, Mr. Ian Makur.
Thank you so much, Honorable Limaniel. I think from all these points, what I got to understand is that we need teamwork and we need collaboration. So thank you so much for your points. Up to this point, anyone who wants to give remarks? Up to this point, let's hear from Mr. Pachalier. Mr. Pachalier, my question goes as, what policies should South Sudan prioritize to mitigate climate change while balancing economic development? Welcome on board.
Yeah, thank you once again. Of course, the government has to consider the prioritizations of the policies in the country that concern with the protection of the environment and also balancing the ways of modernization in order to avoid harming people in the environment. Now with this, it is a policy that the government should come up with by telling the people to be concerned about the environment. And with this, it will help the people around. And also, whenever the rule is not set, then the people will be working randomly. But whenever you are abided by the law, then you will work according to the law. And the law is the one guiding us, and that is the one that has brought us up to this power. So prioritization of the policies in the country will lead to eradication of environmental negative impact on us. So after this part, I would like to stop here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pachalier, for being part of this discussion. I think up to this point, we have come to the end of our discussion. And I want to take this opportunity to thank our panelists for their thoughtful insights on today's discussion, which was on climate change and the transition from carbon-based energy sources to green energy. From the proponents, we have heard about the urgent need to shift from carbon-based energy solutions to green energy. And from the opponents, we have also heard about the economic challenges and other challenges that we'll face if South Sudan is to transition. So question now goes back to you. Should South Sudan transition to green energy solution, or should we continue with carbon-based energy solutions? Thank you all so much for being part of this vital discussion. I was your host, Diane Makur, and it was good to have you all. Thank you.